Hi everybody, I'm Matthew. I am the person behind this channel, Watch Me If You Can. It primarily focuses on watch repair and a review here and there, but today I wanted to talk about something related to watch repair that is a little different. There are a number of positive aspects to the watch repair hobby. Some are obvious and some are less obvious. It's made me a more patient person. It's helped me mentally train myself to be more patient, and it's given me a different sort of skill set to pull from for problem solving. A more obvious benefit is that it opens the door for you to experience more watches. My experience with watch repair makes me more likely to take a risk on a piece than someone who doesn't have any of that background. It might be rare, it might be somewhat expensive, or maybe just something I'm just kind of curious about but not really sure. I don't know how or why, but I really underappreciated Seiko for a long time. Too long. I think it was Mike over at My Retro Watches that kind of lit the spark to get me interested in Seiko. Seiko movements are robust, the parts are easy to get and relatively simple to work on. Seiko's production has been pretty prolific and you can find a lot of variety from sporty, dressy to some pretty funky pieces. So I've come from really not having any interest at all in Seiko to having owned, well, let's just say dozens. But now I only have 5 or 6 that I consider to be in my collection. And I'm using the word collection maybe loosely because I don't consider myself a collector. I just kind of go with my feel. I acquire something that I'm curious about. I don't really approach it with a methodical curation in mind. So in this video, I wanted to show a few watches that I've come across along the way. Some I did let go with maybe a little bit of regret, and then the watches that I have now currently. The first Seiko I worked on was the Seiko 5, covered in what was either welding or metal cutting damage. It barely ticked, but after cleaning and re-oiling it, the movement ran pretty nicely. I removed the metal spatter on the case, sanded, polished, and brushed it. Not to make it look brand new, I kept it pretty honest. The only additional parts I needed were a new crystal and a strap. I love the handset and the dial, which had a silver gray that would have a very slight blue or maybe even lavender hue in certain light. It was a great everyday wear that I held on to for 2 or 3 years. That reference was 7019-7060. The second Seiko that I worked on was this funky vintage Seiko 5 Actus 6106-7700, which I paid about $70 for. It had this faceted crystal that was beaten to death. The video actually flatters it, so replacing it was a definite. I liked the vibrant blue of the dial and those aggressive markers, but I wasn't sure I liked the faceted crystal, so I went with a more classic domed acrylic instead. I wore this watch a few months before selling it. I think if I had kept it up to now, I would have at least tried the faceted crystal. The next Seiko I got was this non-running 7005-6199 for $32. It needed a service and the date disc needed a small adjustment, but it ran fine after I serviced it. It was that deep blue dial that got me, but it wore just a tad larger than I wanted, so I moved it on out and started looking for the next, which was this 7009-5210 from the 1980s. It was one of 2 Seikos that I paid about $20 for the pair. It's actually the most modern mechanical Seiko that I own, and it's maybe the most dramatic rescue I've done. It was a mess inside and out. I really like the classic TV shape. I still have an original bracelet, but I prefer it on this 5-link style that's pretty comfortable. It measures about 36 millimeters across and about 41 millimeters lug to lug, and it wears really nicely. I've since gone through 3 or 4 of these, a couple with silver dials and another one with a blue dial. Sometimes I wish I had kept this blue one, but so far I've kept this one with the black dial. The first vintage Seiko chronograph that I worked on was the 6139 Pogue that belonged to the brother of a coworker. It gave me a chance to try it on my wrist, and as cool as it is, it feels just a bit larger than I'd like. I have a 6.3-inch wrist, so maybe I need to bulk it up a little bit. That introduction opened my eyes to the 6139 chronograph line that has a variety of case shapes, sizes, and dials. At that time, the 6139-8002 could be had for considerably less than the more popular Pogue and Bruce Lee case shapes. These really grew on me, and I really began to appreciate them for beyond just a lower cost alternative. I went through a variety of these, including black and blue dials. The blue may actually be my favorite 8002. I sold all of those and shifted to the 6139-6012, which is the case shape that enthusiasts call the Bruce Lee. I paid $160 for this one. The crystal was so damaged that you could barely make out the dial. It ran very poorly until I serviced it, of course. I was able to polish most of the damage out of the crystal. I did replace the dial, but I saved the original just in case I want to swap it back. This is one of my favorites. I actually have another very similar one that I intend to restore. Then I picked up the 6015 for about $125. The same case really, thinking it would be just for parts, but it's actually in much better condition than I expected, and I'm split over what to do with the watch. It actually runs pretty decently, and the case is in much better condition than you usually see on these gold tone pieces. Usually they're just eaten away. Next, I scooped up this playful little green and blue 6139-8040 with a surprisingly low bid. I thought at worst case scenario, it would at least be good for parts, but with a little work, it's actually running quite well. I've enjoyed wearing this color combination much more than I thought I would. This is just a folded link bracelet, but I actually like it. It's about 39 millimeters in diameter and under 42 millimeters lug to lug. So if it's not the most compact, it's certainly one of the most compact in the 6139 range. These have since also gone up in price, but I don't see selling mine. Okay, on this next one, I would be lying if I didn't admit that price was a factor. I picked this up for under $40. This 6106-8599 though has really grown on me. It's funky. The blue and the gold is not my usual thing. It was not running, and even after service I discovered that it needed a new escape wheel, if I remember correctly, but I had one on hand just as some spare parts. The tension ring crystal was cracked, so I'd also replaced that. I really like this case shape. It's about 38 millimeters wide and it's under 40 millimeters lug to lug. I think this bracelet is just off an old Casio, but I think it actually works pretty well. The one big flaw remaining is there is damage in the dial and the minute track. No one I've showed the watch has even said anything about it, so either they're being polite or just haven't noticed it. It's a fun piece to wear once in a while. It's pretty different from anything else that I own. Okay, the last watch on the table, but not the last watch in the video. That one's on my wrist. It is this 7025-8099, often called the poor man's 62 MAS. It's not hard to see the resemblance, but certainly not a clone. I picked this one up for $170 and it ran very poorly, and it came on the strangest tapered bunt strap, but I think it looks really nice on this strap from Vario, which actually is for the Casio AE 1200. That's the Casio Royale. This one just needed a service, and actually I spent a lot of time getting the bezel sorted out. The bezel retaining spring on here was rounded way out of shape, and I tried to bend it back to where it could work, but it was just not securely holding the bezel reliably, so I ended up buying a replacement spring, and I still struggled to get that installed, but I think I finally had that sorted. Okay, we'll put this down and go for our last watch. This is the most important watch we're going to talk about today. Before all of you anti-quartz Luddites start hammering me away in the comments, my wife gave me this watch about 15 years ago, so you're wrong. This chronograph is in the 1792 family, and it has some resemblance to the Speedmaster Reduced. Now, I could tell a lot of stories on what this has been through, but to keep it brief, maybe the most memorable has been through all the flooding and tropical storms and hurricanes that I've been exposed to while working it as a photojournalist. It may not have the tactile qualities of the Mecha Quartz, but you know what it doesn't have? A useless 24-hour dial. No, that dial is actually a 12-hour counter for the chronograph. So yeah, I went from not thinking Seiko was even interesting enough to be involved with to having gone through dozens, and I pared that down to, roughly 6 or 7, give or take. I'm sure it will evolve, maybe King Seiko, Grand Seiko. If there's something interesting you think that I should check out, do let me know in the comments. I would love to discover something that I fall in love with. If you've been thinking about getting into the watch repair hobby, I really encourage you to. It's really been a gift to me. That's going to be it for this video. I really appreciate you coming along. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, take care.